Imagine you are on your first playthrough of Fear and Hunger. You are walking around trying not to die when you come across this horrible room filled with blood and gore. You're low on health and you're desperate. Knowing going back or forward isn't an option, you just start clicking on everything in the room to find some supplies. When you click one of the walls, however, it says you get a bad feeling about this, but you're like, I insist. And then he pops out. A disembodied head yells at you and says he was sleeping and then starts a fight with you. Talking does nothing, praying does nothing. You can't do anything against the large, dark, looming beast that slowly comes up and you're crushed to death. This is how you may first encounter the Headless Man. With him killing you and having no remorse and with that stupid laugh on your screen. But there are ways to get on his good side, as we'll talk about later. This is Nas'hrah. A man with many titles, the plague of the modern times, the horror from the East, the great wizard of the East, to name a few. But he's not your normal recruitable party member in Fear and Hunger. Oh no. Nas'hrah is important not only for lore reasons that we will discuss, but he also cannot die, making him an extremely great party member to have. But you may say to yourself, Pugzer, who is this floating man, and why is he so important to the overall lore of Fear and Hunger? Well, let's talk about that. Not much is known about Nas'hrah's early life, almost nothing in fact. All we know is he is from the East, which we don't know much about other than they have their own ideals of what the gods are and were, and in the fact he was born in the late 300s. He would eventually learn of the city of Mahavra. He would somehow reach this destination with some others that we learned that he despised, and ascended to godhood with them in the year 410. Nas'hrah and this group of new gods were some of the first to be noticed by normal people. Although the concept of new gods has always existed, seemingly forever, it was somewhat scarcely talked about. Nas'hrah seemingly being such a cruel and notable person brought the idea of the new gods into a household name. People knew of the new gods and at the very least knew who Nas'hrah was. At the time of being known as the bringer of doom and terror. We know he also took the position of a new god by tricking a former god of enlightenment, Betel. The new gods other than him say, and I quote, Nas'hrah was not content with what we have here. His mind was weak, his body was weak, and most of all, he couldn't hold his own against the pressure this place has on people. Without reason, he used to sodomize everyone who stood in his way. That is how he desired to spend his days, instead of true godhood we have here. So it would appear that Nas'hrah, instead of doing whatever it is new gods usually do, decided to stay on Earth and sodomize people? Although I think this may be an over-exaggeration, as we have stated, Nas'hrah hates all other new gods, and they hate him. They sling insults at each other all the time, so it's possible he didn't actually sodomize anybody, but it still would not surprise me. The main takeaway here, though, is that he is the only new god who is not confined to the Grand Hall. If you watched my lore overview on the gods, you know that when a new god loses power and influence, or quote-unquote dies, they are sent to this Grand Hall for seemingly eternity. So you may ask, why is Nas'hrah still on Earth? Well, I think it's because he was so influential and known by people that he still has influence. It may only be over a few people, but people know who Nas'hrah is, usually. The Yellow Mages still exist in the 1940s even. Look at Osa. This is just headcanon though, we don't 100% know why Nas'hrah is still alive and kicking in on Earth. You may be asking yourselves, well, what are Yellow Mages? Well, they are students, or at the very least followers of Nas'hrah's teachings. Like Nas'hrah, they are power-hungry and they use strong destruction magic. The Yellow Mages are mages coming from the East usually, and unlike a lot of Western occultists, they do not really worship, per se, the old gods. They more or less use them for their own agendas. They usually, but not always, are using magic from the god of destruction, Gro-Goroth. The Yellow Mages, and Nas'hrah for that matter, believe that Gro-Goroth is the old god with the most influence in the modern age. Therefore, they use his magic as it is the most powerful. And the fact that it's destruction magic also helps. As the years have gone by, though, they are slowly but surely dying out, which may mean Nas'hrah may also die out when his influence does, but who knows. During the events of Fear and Hunger 1, Nas'hrah is still alive and currently a bodiless head in the flesh pits. He was reduced to this by the other new gods, seemingly. The way to get him is quite annoying. You have to find one of his pupils in the mines. Find a Yellow Mage, then carefully cut off their arms so they can't do the same to you. Then you can talk to them and ask who they serve. They'll tell you Nas'hrah, and then give you an Eclipse Talisman. After you have this and the Cube of the Depths, which you should know how to get by now, you can go to the Flesh Pits and fight Nas'hrah again. Give him the Eclipse Talisman, and he'll tell you that he pretty much doesn't care that anyone could have killed any one of his pitiful Yellow Mages. Stay fighting him and staring your death in the face, Then on the last turn, he'll say that he appreciates your bravery, at least, and he notices that you have the cue. He'll ask you one more question, and you'll have to answer that there is more to find in these dungeons. He'll agree and join your party. I go by many titles, but you can call me Nashrah, the doom and terror of modern man. I hate the idea of a brainless maggot like you following me around as a pupil, but I might just need you this once. You see, I need to destroy the reign of the new gods. I want to rip off their spines and watch as they slump down weak and feeble. I want to watch them bleed as they're being squashed by the very same arrogance that helped them rise to power. But my strength isn't quite the same as it once was. Make no mistake that I could crush you like the worm you are, but to get this job done, I need my body back. There should be a way to do just this in the ancient city that's below these ruins. I want you to aid me there. Nashrah will say this when joining your party, making his intentions pretty clear. You are to go to the ancient city of the gods, Mahabra, and get him a new body, and if not, kill all the new gods. As we stated before, it makes sense that he wants this. He hates them and they hate him. Taking him with you is a great idea, as he cannot die, he doesn't get hungry, and he doesn't get any ill effects from low mind other than not being able to cast spells. Because of this, he is one of the best party members in the game, in my opinion. To be an invincible meat shield, if nothing else. You have several interactions you can have with him before you get to Mahabra, though. Such as trying to make love to him, in which case he will set you on fire. Or you can try to sacrifice him to Gro-Goroth, in which case he will set you on fire. Or you can try to kill Gro-Goroth yourself, in which case he will be set on fire. Lots of fire. Once you get to Mahabra and jump down to a secret lab, or laboratory, he will show you how to make a new body. This will be helpful later to kill Shamra, but it's not why we are here. He tries to make a body for himself first, then realizes it cannot live up to his expectations and power. And then once again, he will set it on fire. Frustrated, he will tell you to just go kill the new gods through brute force as your party is now. It shouldn't be too hard. If you bring him to the throne and ascend after, he will be strangely quiet after killing all the new gods. If you try to ascend and take him with you, he will say strangely out of a place of calmness that he's already ascended once and it was a mistake. New gods aren't what you think they are. Canonically, we do not 100% know what happens to Nashrah in Fear and Hunger 1 other than he survives. In my headcanon, someone took him to the God of the Depths and tried to fight Gro-Goroth, at least before the party with the little girl who made the God of Fear and Hunger got there. Nashrah, happy about getting to fight Gro-Goroth, gets burnt to a crisp, like we saw earlier. It's also very possible that Lagarde had something to do with it, as in Termina, his whole reason for leading Ossa there is to kill the Kaiser for revenge, I guess? For what? I don't know. Possibly burning him and cutting out his eyes, explaining how he got to this state in Termina. A burnt head with no eyes, but we don't know which really it is. During the events of Fear and Hunger 2 Termina, it is stated that Ossa went to the ruins of the Dungeon of Fear and Hunger at some point before the events of the main game, and he found Nashrah in a pile of rubble. Ossa frees him, and being quote-unquote thankful to Ossa, Nashrah makes Ossa his latest pupil. Ossa will take Nashrah to the Termina Festival, which Nashrah appears to know about. Once everything kicks off, he'll say some choice words about some of the contestants, and other people, saying, Dan is a worm hiding secrets, and they must be dug up. August is dangerous, and he should be watched closely. Marina is a child trying to play with magic. Olivia is a measly librarian waiting to be devastated, whatever that means. Karen is an arrogant bitch and a piece of filth. Henrik is a weakling with no discernible features whatsoever. And Pocket Cat is a pubic hair stuck in your throat, and the Nashrah has met him several times before. He will say that the Kaiser is the reason why Ossa's even here at all, and that the Kaiser is a bastard baby, and that he's spineless, and that the only time he'll stand up straight again is when he fucks him from behind, which is a classic Nashrah dialogue. He also says Ossa has a long penis. Yep. He will also strangely contradict himself and history several times, so perhaps he's gone mad or he doesn't know as much as he says he does, but I don't 100% know on that one. Another thing is, if you play as Ossa, you can tell Dan about the Sulphur God, information you seemingly know from Nashrah, as he will ask you why you're even telling Dan this. So that means Nashrah is at least aware of the Sulphur God, something we'll talk about in the Sulphur God video. However, no matter what ending happens in Termina, we don't really know what happens to Nashrah at the moment because we don't know the canonical ending. In ending B for Ossa, however, he throws him into a lake, so perhaps that's where someone will find him in Fear and Hunger 3. I'm not sure. But Miro is, and Miro isn't telling anyone. Anyway, I appreciate you watching this video. If I missed anything, please let me know in the comments. I'm sure I missed some bit of information somewhere. Also, I'm aware of his whole Kingdom of Edo thing, but it's not important at all, so I didn't really discuss it. Anyway, I love you all. Thank you so much for 4,000 subs. See ya.